All right, and you are now live.
Thank you. Good afternoon. This is the City of Seaside C-Jobs Commission on Jobs, Opportunities, and Businesses. It is 4 o'clock, and I would like to call the meeting to order. Could we have a roll call?
Yes. Commissioner Glover, Commissioner Tier, Commissioner Rodriguez,
Present.
Commissioner Groves,
Present.
Commissioner Kamath,
Present.
and Chair Anderson.
Present.
You
Thank
do
you.
have a quorum. You're welcome.
Item number 3 is public comment. Did we receive anything in advance?
The clerk's office did not receive any public comment in advance.
Okay, we'll call for public comment now if there's anybody that would like to come forward.
Okay, members of the public, if you wish to make public comment, please use the raise your hand feature or dial *9 if you're calling in from a phone. Chair, we do have one member of the public wishing to make public comment. And I will let them. Yes, just one moment. All right. Sarah Haller, you now have the floor to make your public comment.
Hi, thanks for letting me ask a question. I was just out on the internet reading our code, brushing up on this commission, and I was wondering, it looks like there's supposed to be 9 members. So I was just wondering if someone would comment if there's 3 vacancies on this commission. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your comments. Through the chair.
We do have vacancies on the commission. If you would like to apply for a position, we would welcome you to do so. Thank you. Is there anything else? Okay.
There are no other public comments at this time, Chair.
Thank you, Clerk. Okay, item number 4 is the approval of the minutes. You should have all received copies of the July 12th meeting. I would entertain a motion to accept minutes.
So moved.
Thank you. Second.
Second.
Thank you. Could we have a roll call vote on that, please?
Yes. Commissioner Rodriguez,
Yes, approve.
Commissioner Groves,
Yes.
Commissioner Kamath,
Yes, approved.
Chair Anderson.
Yes.
Your
Approved.
motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. I will have those signed in and emailed over to you this afternoon. We are on to number 5, item number 5 on the agenda, which is business items. And I will turn this over right now over to Trevin Barber, our assistant to the city manager.
Thank you, Chair. So this item is an opportunity for commissioners to provide input on the newsletter being published this Friday. So far, I have the retirement of Commissioner Kamath on the newsletter. I have September 25th Broadway closure for a fall festival. I have the Go Biz deadline for the California Competes tax credit. I have the aftermath of the Oaxaca by the Sea with hopefully some good community pictures and some stories. And I have small business grants that are available. I have KB Bakewell Community Meeting, save the date for September 11th. And then I also have, and I may not publish this one, it's an Outsmart disaster toolkit, how small businesses can prepare for disaster. And it's just a free toolkit that's out there. And then we also have a draft survey for a community fair for businesses to participate in. If there are any other items that the commissioners would like me to add to the newsletter, I'd be happy to receive them now or by email until Thursday.
Point of clarification, if I may, Trevor.
Mhm.
With regard to the retirement, it is the retirement from my position as Dean of the College of Business. Isn't that correct?
That's correct. We're gonna link to the press release on the college. Yes.
All right. So
Yeah.
thank you for clarifying that. I
Yeah.
appreciate that. Is there a way we could look at the topics that you might have put them into the agenda, but I didn't look? Are they in the agenda?
No, I just had them on a word pad here on my desktop.
Because then we could at least know what there is and suggest to you. I would recommend, given on behalf of the IIED, I would recommend an announcement regarding the Get Virtual program, because that is something that is available to all businesses in the city of Seaside. And since the students are back, they will be back this weekend. The program will be back to full offering of social media strategies and websites set up for businesses in Seaside.
Perfect. Thank you.
And I can have Dan send you the details of that, or you could ask Dan, he could send you the details. Okay.
Thank you.
Kevin, is the city's loan program, the $2,500 to $5,000 program, still available?
Yes, it is.
Could you mention that as well?
Yes.
Excellent.
We had some lunch today at a Seaside business, and I was talking up the various things that we have available here. Not too sure if that was still there, but he's got some development work in mind and is very interested in everything we have available. So to mention that again would keep it alive.
Perfect. Thank you.
And that would go along with the waiving of the fees for the infrastructure.
It sure would.
Perfect. Okay, so if there's anything else that you want to submit, we have until Thursday, is that correct? Just send
Yes.
that-
Yes, Thursday would be ideal. If you have to, if something comes up Thursday night and then you get to me Friday morning, that should be fine too.
Oh,
Okay.
wow.
Okay. We'll try not to do that to you. Thank you. All right, let's see. Item B, 5B, provide the commission with a work plan template to develop the fiscal year 22 C-Jobs work plan. Trevor, do you want to please?
Yes, thank you, Chair. Let me, I do have this to share this time, unlike the previous item. So this is the annual draft work plan for C-Jobs. I went ahead and I want to offer the commission a template that's used for some of our other commissions in Seaside. This is an item that will need to be more finalized by the commission. And I'm recommending that we can do that one of two ways. We can finalize the work plan tonight. If you read through it since the agenda was posted and you think it's good, I can take it from there and put it on a council agenda for the chair or the chair's designee to present to the city council. Otherwise, the alternative would be option 2 would be for the commission to take this under further consideration, and then we can come back at next month's meeting with a more fully fleshed out plan that the commission would like to adopt. So those are the two options. And then what I'd like to do is, if you'd like, I can go ahead and I can walk through some of the details of the plan and highlight why I put things in there in certain places, if that is acceptable to the commission.
I would opt for alternative 2 so that we can consider this in detail. And thank you for offering to walk through the plan.
Yeah, I'd appreciate Trevin if you would walk through the plan as well.
So we'd like to go ahead then, my understanding is walk through the plan, but take some time and not officially approve it at today's meeting. Is that what
Agreed.
I'm hearing? Okay.
Okay, perfect. Sounds good. I'll go ahead and I'll walk through it.
Thank
And then
you.
I'll put it back on the agenda for the next C-Jobs Commission. So I do, I will need to find a roster of members. These are the members that I had on hand. So I will need to fully finish that list. That's why all the names weren't there. The mission statement, this is something I plugged in there based on the resolution that was adopted when C-Jobs was formed, and to provide policy level recommendations on matters related to the development and growth of Seaside's economy for the betterment of working families. That was the language that was in and around the resolution that was adopted. So I went ahead and used that. But anything that is in this document is at the discretion of the commission. So just because it's in there doesn't mean that it's set in stone. Same with the historic background and responsibilities. That's straight out of the municipal code and the resolution that was used to adopt it, almost verbatim. For the work plan, I went ahead and I broke it up under the categories in the municipal code and in the resolution of the areas of responsibility. So it's just broken out by those areas. In economic and business development, I have in here develop a 5-year economic development strategy. And this doesn't have to be a 5-year plan. This could be a place-based economic development strategy. It could be a corridor analysis. The idea behind this was to have a more overarching plan for the commission that each annual work plan could fit into. So that's the only reason why I had that there, was because at the time I didn't have anything at my disposal that I knew about of where exactly does this work plan fit into overarching economic development goals. So that would be one idea that I have that I thought would be beneficial for the commission to consider in there. And then at some point in time, this item, as well as the other items in the work plan, would align with a budget request, requesting support for a facilitator or whatever the item calls for, would be requesting resources to be able to provide that part of the work plan.
Point of clarification, Trevin, is there a 5-year economic development strategy already in place? I'm relatively new, so I don't know.
Yes, I'm relatively new as well. I have not found one yet. I've been searching through all of my predecessors' files and online. The only economic development plan that I can find are documents from FORA and documents from the Comprehensive Economic Development Strategy, which is spearheaded by the county. So there's nothing that I have found as of yet that is a specific economic development strategy that Seaside was leading or drafting or creating on its own. There is, of course, the economic development component of the general plan, but that is pretty old, considering that we're getting ready to adopt the new one pretty soon.
So another point of clarification, if such an economic development strategy is to be developed, what would be the role of the C-Jobs Commission?
So what I would envision as the you're the vanguard of economic development for the city of Seaside. So you're the ones that would provide the recommendation to council that a plan is needed. And then you'd be the ones working with me and the facilitator and or the team of consultants on our developing workshops to bring the community together, or just to have during a C-Jobs Commission meeting to lead the city through that strategic planning process. And then you'd be the ones that would present or recommend the city council to adopt at some point.
May I suggest that we take that up as a formal agenda item to work through the mechanics of that and then proceed to do exactly what you suggest. So.
Yeah, certainly that's up to the commissioners if they want to join you in that request. I might add that we might want to finalize it in the work plan. And then once it's in the work plan, once the work plan is adopted, then take it up as implementing the work plan and have it in the CJobs agenda as an item to implement the work plan that was adopted. Does that make sense?
Agreed. I think that's a good way. Yeah, that's excellent.
Good process.
Okay. The other two items in here were items that I had heard commissioners or city council members comment on or talk about in past economic development conversations. So I tried to be as inclusive as I could, realizing that it's up to the commission. You guys can take things out if there's something that's not to your liking. But these were two items that were in there. Recommendations for restart and recovery to support Seaside. So items like this would be the microloan program. So making advisements on how to adjust or change those policy parameters to better suit the city of Seaside, or the upcoming facade improvement program. So making the policy recommendation on that. That's what I was thinking under restart and recovery, or any of the EDA grants or California state budget grants, is providing recommendations on those. The third one is the Central Coast Public Bank. This one was a little bit more nebulous. I hadn't seen a ton of discussion around this item, but it was something that was out there. And then I have the business communication items as part of section 2. And that's relaunched the newsletter, which we've done, and it's in multiple languages, but only so much as the individual's browser can automatically interpret a different language, since it is digital. So that's something that we can work on. And then we have assigned commissioners as liaisons to different Seaside economic development partners. I'd love to be everywhere at once, but I can't. And so having CJobs commissioners provide that support to the city to be in many different places at once really does create an added value to the city of Seaside, and being able to bring all the different partners together and advocate for the needs of Seaside. So I had that in there as a thought of how the CJobs commissioners could connect with the different business community and be strategic about which commissioners are connecting with which parts of the community, since you each have unique strengths. And then you probably don't want to overextend yourselves. You probably want to share that responsibility. And you also probably don't want to overlap and duplicate efforts to communicate to different entities.
Good idea. Good idea.
I love the way you're putting this together, Trevin.
That's very nice.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate the support. For the last two is business attraction. So this is continue to support Central Coast marketing team. This is a regional high tide floats all boats sort of idea. We have a partnership with Monterey Bay Economic Partnership, where members, City of Seaside is a member of that organization, and they have a smaller organization or a spin-off subcommittee of that does industrial and business marketing. And so we're working with them to revamp the website and to do a number of other things to come up with marketing collateral. You know, when an industrial business locates to, say, the racetrack, or say the airfield, either in Monterey or in Marina, those jobs are indiscriminate of political boundaries. People in Seaside get the benefit, that economic benefit. Families here get that benefit. They don't have to drive as far. So that's why the Central Coast marketing team makes sense to market to industrial businesses as a region, because we all benefit from it. We've got support the economic and community planning efforts to the former Fort Ord lands and infill, including campus town. So these are all the, we will need a community to help provide input on what's the highest and best use of those lands. And I think CJobs has a critical role in doing that, in providing that leadership for the community. So that's why I thought we should put that in there. And then assess the feasibility of a Visitors Bureau satellite office on Broadway. This was an idea that I think one of the commissioners had. And I saw it in the notes in a previous meeting, so I wanted to make sure it got included in there. Assess the feasibility of a remote jobs attraction program. Again, this is an attraction program that a commissioner had mentioned in the past. I don't know who, I saw these in the notes and I wanted to make sure everyone's ideas got included. So I don't know too much of the history of those last two, but I know that they were important in some way to the commission. I wanted to honor that and make sure they got in there. And then this is the last section, is business retention and expansion. And so coordinate a business visitation program. So this is the Seaside Business Walk that some of the chambers do in the area. Develop annual small business workshops or workshop calendar with CalCoastal SBDC. This is actually partly agendized tonight. Then we have coordinate efforts to develop a Seaside Business Association and Seaside Hispanic Business Association. And so this idea came from previous commission notes where there seems to be a lack of effort around organizing businesses in Seaside specific. There's a lot of really great regional partnerships, but in Seaside specifically, there seems to be something, there seems to be a puzzle piece missing. And so that's where this came in. And then serve as the approving board for the small business microloan. That's more procedural. And then also up in the air, if you want to do the same thing for the Facade Program, or if you want a subcommittee to do the Facade Program. And then there's provide advice and recommendations to the Recreation Department on hosting special cultural events to showcase local vendors, specifically on Broadway too. I know that the Recreation Department received a budget allocation for this year to do more special events. And I know that the commission has expressed in the past wanting a voice and to be able to provide their expertise on how to support businesses on Broadway with special events. And so that's why I thought it would be good to have that in there. And then some more support and promote the Tri-County Apprenticeship Program. I don't know much about that item, but it was one of the lingering items in the notes that I wanted to include. So that's everything I have in the work plan. And it sounds like the decision is to go ahead and to bring this back next month. So I'll leave it there. And then if you think of anything in the meantime, I'm happy to act as the collator. I can take your emails and I can put your ideas into this. I can shape it up and I can make the document look a little bit more pretty and presentable and capture everyone's ideas. And then we'll come back next meeting and we can discuss it in more detail and take it from there. Thank you.
That's perfect. Thank you very much, Trevin.
Could I?
Yes, Sean, go ahead.
Trevin, I think you've done an excellent job to get this started. I think all the items are terrific. I think it, and this is dependent on your preference. Obviously, us commissioners would have suggestions and to deepen some of these, as well as add to them or suggest an alternative. The way to do that, perhaps, the way we usually get it done on the other boards that I serve on, is by putting up a Google Doc and making changes to the Google Doc. Now, that might not be something you prefer, but it allows us to provide real-time input to you. And we could do it in, using the track changes so that it appears as a track change and and then it can be considered in the next meeting. That's a suggestion.
Would a work document for this commission need to be on a city website since we're working together on it? Or can it be in a something like a Google Doc that is perhaps not a city site?
Something that's not public, is that what you're saying, Alan?
Yeah, I'm not sure how to proceed. What's the workplace for doing this?
Exactly, so that we stay within the boundaries of the Brown Act.
Yeah, but I think what I'm recommending is that we form since it is the commission, that this is a document that the commission is preparing jointly with Trevin's leadership. I think it can't be a public document before it is finalized. The other process would be for Trevin to send us the document by email. We make the changes and send them back to him. I don't think that violates the Brown Act.
I'd be happy to comment.
Go ahead.
So I think that's a really good point about where's the document located and if it's public or not. The one thing that we'll want to do is not have the document housed in my personal Gmail account. Otherwise, the Gmail account becomes discoverable. So what I can do is, I believe the city has a generic city Gmail account where the document will be housed on the cloud. And then to Commissioner Scheim's point, it is still a draft document. And so it doesn't necessarily have to be discoverable if there's going to be a final document that will be publicly available. So the draft document becomes a moot point at some point, or the fact that it's on Google becomes a moot point at some point, because there'll be a final version presented to the commission at the next meeting, and that will become the default publicly accessible and requested document for this record.
Sounds good.
Sounds good. Yes.
Thank you. Thanks, Trevin, for clarifying all that for us.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. I hope I got that right, Dominique.
Yeah, I'll just, Chair, if I may just add in.
Certainly.
The document I would suggest forming a subcommittee. You don't want to have your entire commission commenting in on the draft document, because it is going to be a public record, and that decisions are being made by the body and not in a public setting. And so I would avoid the appearance of the business not being done in public by forming a subcommittee of 2 members and then bringing that document. But the document shouldn't be worked on or considered by the entire commission unless in a agendized public meeting setting.
Could I?
Okay.
Could I ask a question of Dominique?
Yes, certainly. Yes, please.
Dominique, could the other members of who are not on the subcommittee also submit their suggestions to Trevin?
Yes.
Okay. Well, that then that ensures that the input of the commission is there on the draft document, but in a manner that's consistent with the guidelines.
Perfect.
Thank
So
you.
you should all have a copy of the work plan. And if you want to go ahead and take a closer look at that and make notes and send those over to Trevin, he can go ahead and get those incorporated in, and we'll move forward with that. And then next meeting, we can review it one more time, and hopefully we will be able to approve it so that it can go to City Council. Thank you. We are on to item 5C, which is recommend workshop topics for a conceptual contract with Cal Coastal Small Business Development Center for local small business shops. Trevin, would you like to go ahead and address, please?
Yes, thank you, Chair. So we have a standing contract with Cal Coastal SBDC, the Small Business Development Center in Salinas. Historically, they have provided monthly or almost monthly workshops for our small business community here locally in Seaside, that they can learn how to be more excellent at their jobs, or more excellent at a field that they might not know about, like marketing or accounting or real estate, something that all small businesses have to deal with, but maybe it's not in their wheelhouse. So we have an opportunity to extend that contract and to provide that service again for the city of Seaside. I should note that the contract lapsed at some point during the beginning of the pandemic, and it didn't get renewed during the pandemic because no one could have in-person meetings. So it was not conceived as something that was needed at that point in time to be feasibly accomplished. And so we haven't had those meetings in Seaside for a long time. They have provided anybody free access to their online content and their online workshops. But this is something that we may want to consider bringing back to the community, having in-person in Spanish workshops that our community can benefit from. So I put this item out here with an attachment of the previous agenda topics, hoping to hear from the commissioners and receive direction on if this is something that they'd like to bring back to the community, and if there's any specific topic that they'd like me to try and work with the Small Business Development Center on bringing to the community. Thank you.
Have the commissioners had a chance to look at those topics?
Yes.
Yes.
I strongly endorse the renewal of the contract, given where we are with regard to the post-pandemic recovery. The SBDC used to be a part of the College of Business at CSUMB and was transferred to Cal Coastal 2.5 years ago, 3 years ago, and has done a marvelous job in terms of helping the local community in Monterey County and San Benito in terms of developing their businesses. So I think absolutely this would be terrific. Cindy Merzon does a great job at the SBDC, and this would be a great thing to do.
A couple of years ago, I attended, sorry, go ahead.
No, you're okay. Go ahead, Alan.
All right, a couple of years ago, I attended one of those on time management, and I found it very useful. For some reason, there were communications, lack of communication somewhere, and I was the only attendee, and they were expecting several others. So I would be interested in who they know has, well, no, not who, in which of their seminars they know people have watched online, so that we would have a sense of which ones are proving to be valuable. And my only other comment on them is they all seem to be entry-level topics. And so if you're beginning with some awareness already of a topic, you may not be interested in reviewing what you already know. You may be interested in a sort of second level course. And I didn't see any of those.
Okay. That's a good observation. Typically, they do start off with entry level, but I'm sure they have some courses that they would be able to offer in a more advanced stage. This is also a good opportunity, I think, for attracting new businesses, people that are contemplating going into business and getting their feet wet and just seeing what all is entailed in a business or a specific industry, specific segment. I think it's very valuable. So, and I think with us reviving the newsletter and having that information out there will certainly help with the attendance at these. And if we are moving forward with some in-person ones, I think, those would be great. Trevor, would you know if they would do workshops in a hybrid situation where it was a in-person and a Zoom component as well?
Thank you, Chair, for the question. I don't know at this point. I will certainly add that to my list to reach out to them and confirm that if they can do hybrid.
Okay. I think that would be a good option. David, did you have something?
When they do move to the in-person, would they kind of just travel to where the businesses were located, or would the businesses have to travel to the central Salinas center, what have you?
Thank you, Commissioner. Yes, they would come to Seaside. So if we contract for them, it's going to be around $10,000 or $15,000, or to be negotiated. And what that affords us is for them having the trainings in Seaside, so that the businesses do not have to travel. And we would most likely host them at the Seaside Creates office, either in our lobby or in our conference room.
And I don't have the topics in front of me, but was there a topic on hiring and a topic on some sort of like just that sort of thing, like hiring and the how to go about hiring that?
Thank you for the question, Commissioner. That particular topic wasn't on there. They had time management, insurance, banking services, managing cash flow, financial management, and credit reporting. But that doesn't mean that we can't work something out. So if there's something that as a commission, you all agree is something that is very important to the community, that you hear businesses asking for, like, if I just had help with XYZ, I could be more successful. If you have that qualitative data, we can certainly work with the Small Business Development Center to put on that type of workshop.
That kind of goes back to in the work plan when we talked about the different organizations that we would partner with. I think the Workforce Investment Board would be, one of those good opportunities for targeting the challenges of hiring.
That's a good point.
All right. So that's great. And I think, recommending that, we go ahead and make sure the contract is done again, I think would be in our best interest. Let's see here. Moving on to item D. What kind of time frame? Okay. Introduce the Economic Development Administration's, what is it? $3 billion allocation from the American Rescue Plan and the associated funding opportunities. This was also in your packet. Does anybody have questions on that? Or Trevin, did you have anything you want to highlight on that?
Thank you, Chair. Nothing particularly that I want to highlight. I just wanted to let the commission know that these notice of fundings available were issued, that they are going to be very competitive. It seems like a lot of money. It is a lot of money in real standards, but it's also being, everyone in the US is competing for these funds. So I wanted to make the commission aware of them. If there's something in particular, as experts on Seaside, because I've only been here a month, so I'm still a kindergartner when it comes to Seaside knowledge. But in your expert opinion, if there's something that is really important for Seaside, maybe there's an infrastructure project that we've been waiting to build for a long time. Maybe I just don't know about it, but maybe you know about it, and it fits the requirement in this grant, we can go and apply for that infrastructure grant under a lot of these different funding sources.
Well, that's helpful. I couldn't figure out what to do with that, since it was a city application process, not anything for us or our members or our businesses to do. But you're saying the city would be willing to apply for these if we suggested it, or consider applying if we suggest it. Is that right?
That is precisely the intent in providing this to the commission, is so that they could provide the advice and the recommendation to council to pursue a grant opportunity under one of these funding sources.
Oh, that helps.
May I suggest that we work closely with other partners to develop the grant? And I know, Trevin, you've been IIED at CSUMB has reached out to you, and you are working with them. But I in the past when we've won these grants, and just in the last 2 years, we've won about $1.5 million in grants in collaboration with the city of Seaside, Marina, Salinas, and so on. So that's all I would say. And in the topics that I have on the commissioner's topics, there are 2 other possibilities that I will bring up, which are far advanced. Okay.
Excellent.
Okay. All right, so we will take a harder look at that. Then item number 5E, parameters of the conceptual storefront improvement program, which we had talked a little bit about at our last meeting, but do you want to give us an update on that, Trevin?
Good.
Yes, thank you, Chair. So I'm providing 2 things as part of this item. I provided a redacted Google Forms of the business interest survey that we, and that's providing input to the assessment on what types of improvements and what types of benefit that different businesses are looking to receive out of a potential facade improvement program. The responses so far are pretty light. We've received 7, and I believe 3 of those responses may have been from the same company, and it may have been about 3 properties. It was hard to tell. I need to reach back out to them and confirm. But really what I'm looking for is something more around the lines of 20 different responses. That would really help us understand the need behind this program. And it would help us understand where to direct our resources. So do people need help with architecture? Do they need a grant, or do they need a loan, or do they need a reimbursement? How's their cash flow, and what types of building improvements do they want? That's going to help us get a really precise program that will target the needs of the businesses in Seaside. For the commissioners' benefit, I do plan to bring this to the attention of the city council after our next C-Jobs meeting. So at the next C-Jobs meeting, I hope to have everything compiled, the commission's recommendations, the data that we have in the field of the condition of our buildings, our commercial assets, our inventory, how much of it needs to be updated, and a better understanding from the businesses, from the storefront improvement interest forms. So I'll take those to council at the end of September with the final recommendations on the policies and procedures. And that brings me to the next attachment to this, and that's the draft, or not draft, but sample policies and procedures. So I issued a similar program in the city of Gilroy starting 2 years ago. And so those are conceptual policies and procedures. I wanted to give the commission something to think about of the different parameters of what could go into the facade program and what the policies and procedures would look like with an administrative committee and with the different checks and balances put in place. I also wanted to use this as an opportunity to go through the various different outstanding questions of what a facade program would look like for the city of Seaside and gather input from the commission. So there's several questions in the staff report, and I'd very much be interested in receiving direction from the commission on those different topics now that there's been a month from our last meeting when the topic was introduced. Thank you.
I'll ask you my procedural question, Trevor. How do you want to receive responses from us?
Yeah, well, I'd like to, if we can go one by one, that would be great. I understand if the commission wants to take a more brief approach and just if they have a list of items that they want to provide, we could take turns providing them and I'll write them all down. Or as I said before, we can go through the staff report set of questions line item by line item, and we can have a discussion on each one.
Let's do that. Let's go line by line.
Perfect. So the first one was setting the geographic boundary. So is the program is the program in your vision going to benefit Seaside the most if we focus it on just downtown, such as the West Broadway Urban Village? Or will it cover properties in the entire city or the other commercial districts? So we have the Del Monte businesses that come right in from our gateway from Home Depot. Then we have West Broadway. Then we have the businesses that fall over on East Broadway. And then we have North and South Fremont commercial districts. So the question here is, how targeted should we be in our grant funds? Do we want to limit it to a specific spot, or do we want it to be the entire city?
I have a question.
Yes.
What are the resource constraints and the time constraints?
Good.
For resource constraints, we've been I've been authorized by the city manager to consider using ARPA funds, the American Recovery and Reinvestment Act funds. And to that extent, it's my understanding that we are to use no more than 10% of those funds, which would roughly place it around a very large sum of 900,000, which seems like way more than we would need to cover the entire city if each commercial property received a few $1,000s. So those would be the financial constraints. So I think we've got a pretty generous, some generous leeway there. And then the other question you had was time constraints. If we're using those funds, I believe there's a pretty large discretionary time period that we can use the ARPA funds for. So no real constraint. If we're looking to launch in the winter period, having council adoption in September or October, then I think we'll fall easily within the time allowed for using the ARPA funds.
Is there any constraint in terms of personnel with working with you or personnel at City Hall that could limit the number of approvals that you could do in a week or a month?
That's a very good question. If I get, I can probably, this entire program will probably take anywhere between 10 to 20% of my time. And so if we can streamline the process a little bit, do administrative approvals, not requiring a board approval, but just staff approval, following if it, set up the parameters, if it meets those parameters, somewhat like what we do with the water allocation committee. If it meets the parameters, then it passes. And we just have 2 other people on staff to make sure for accountability purposes. Then that would free up, because then our staff is not preparing board meeting staff reports or agendizing the application material and redacting. So that all takes a lot of time. I think I can reasonably do 2 applications a week and work through it like that. And it would only take about 10 to 20% of my time. So in my experience, when I was in Gilroy, we were only doing it wasn't the whole city. We were just doing it in a portion of downtown. I had plenty of time to review and approve those applications. If we're doing it on citywide, we might have to give staff more generous time to consider each application. So if we get 20 applications in 1 week, then we'd have to notify people of, hey, we're processing this as first come, first serve. This is the, this is backlogged, this is what we're working with, and just ask for their patience.
Well, so far we haven't, sorry.
Okay. No, go ahead, Alan. I'm sorry.
So far we haven't been swamped with applications on our other efforts. So that may not be a constraint, but at the same time, I can't imagine any reason we would want to limit this to one part of the city and close out tax-paying businesses in another part of the city that otherwise would be just as qualified, except for where they happen to be located. As long as they're in a commercial district that we recognize as such, and as long as they meet the size qualifications for small business, I would say open it up. That's just my vote.
I agree.
Mm-hmm. And take into consideration too, some of these improvements may only be paint. I mean, really,
Yep, absolutely.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So does
Trevin, could
Don't
I
think we
ask a
got
quick
that one.
follow-up question? Given the great job that has been done on Broadway, is there a strategy that the city staff or the city has in terms of continuing improvements in other parts of the city in a radial manner or some kind of systematic manner?
It's a very good question. I don't have a very good answer. I don't know what our infrastructure plans are. I can speak from experience that is typically the procedure, that you start with an improvement and then you move out from there. I've seen that in other towns. I don't know if we quite have that in a capital improvement plan. I have not, but I have to be honest, I've only been here a month. I haven't read our capital improvement plan yet. So.
Okay, but I agree with Alan and with Joy that we should try to extend this to everyone in the city, especially given the response rate.
Yeah.
The next question is, what is the maximum award that a single applicant can receive? So I think we talked last time about how that would combine with a loan. And we also talked about the rising cost of labor and lumber.
You would be the best judge given your experience in Gilroy and understanding the overall budget and the needs of the average need of an average business, if they've.
I would like the scope of our support to be less than 100% of the cost that's being proposed. So the business involved has a stake in this. It isn't just something the city is doing for them. But boy, I don't know, 50% doesn't seem too high to me. But maybe we should also think about a dollar maximum.
I think skin in the game is it's always a good idea, but I think I would think that the incentives should be a little higher for people to apply. So maybe Alan, a little above 50, maybe 60 or 75 max. And then I like your idea about a dollar, a dollar seated to that. What that is, I'm not able to judge, not having done any. But Trevin,
I've been out of construction for a long time on any commercial property, so it's like, and I know the costs have really skyrocketed.
And Trevin would know, don't you think, Joy, given his experience in Gilroy?
Well, he certainly is a lot closer to it than the rest of us are, probably.
Yeah, but I think both ideas are good.
So you're saying up to like 75% of the cost with a cap, maybe?
Yeah.
Is that how you would like to phrase that? Yeah.
Cap to be decided by Trevin, depending on his understanding of market conditions and his experience.
Yeah, and it's also, it's a tough one because facades are, some storefronts are very small and some of them are larger.
But the advantage of a cap on the dollar amount is that the small ones will be covered if the cap is a reasonable cap. So.
Sure.
It also keeps us in the small business realm.
Yeah.
The auto dealers won't be applying.
Correct.
No.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. A BMW doesn't need a sign, supposedly.
Why? I think it's an incentive for those that already have businesses but,
Yeah.
you know, it just makes Seaside, you know, more business friendly as a whole, and will attract more people to take a look, because we do so much for especially our small businesses. And that's the part I'm really excited about, that, you know, it takes care of those existing businesses. It shows support by the city, but it also, you know, sends a message out to the rest of the community that this is, if you're going to start a business, come over to Seaside.
Yep. Good.
Okay.
Next.
Okay, the next question was already answered, and it was the percentage. So we'll move on to what improvements should be deemed eligible and emphasized in program guidelines. And so this could be, do we want to emphasize murals? I know that that's been talked a lot by the community. Do we want to emphasize new painting? Do we want to emphasize awnings, or maybe parklets? Do we want to emphasize parklets to expand outdoor dining capacity? So those are some of the things floating around on the whiteboard.
Well, I would say the parklet, I think is kind of something that is kind of I think it'd be a great idea, and I don't see that there's very much outdoor dining happening in Seaside. I know up the street on the Broadway where they have Other Brother, that was a pretty big project, and I think it's pretty successful. And as well as I'm on the West Broadway, the Urban Village. Down the street also at Mariscos, they have like a very nice outdoor setting. So something like that, I can see that as being very beneficial, other than just kind of like the usual kind of the first things that kind of jumped into your head in terms of facade.
To the point of pushing back a little, and it doesn't mean that I am pushing back, but to be devil's advocate, I guess. Seaside has spent a lot of money to get those wide sidewalks. Are we ready to turn them over for private enterprise to close them off? And so how do we do a parklet that doesn't close off all that space?
Good question.
Maybe that goes into the design of the parklet.
The pattern in Carmel or Monterey is to keep the sidewalk and move it onto the street and impinge on the street a bit, especially in parking areas. So that's one way around, because you're quite right, Alan. Taking the immediate storefront away is going to cause disruption of a major nature.
I like the idea of murals, but they really make a difference in an area rather than just hit and miss.
Correct.
If there's a mural, you know, over on Broadway, you know, or West Broadway, and over on Fremont, there's one on Don Monte, doesn't really make sense. It's like when there's an area, it just brings that real eclectic kind of fun feel to you know, to a neighborhood of, you know, businesses. So I don't know how you would do that.
Businesses at a corner, or businesses with a parking lot beside them or an open space beside them, give you a side of the business.
True.
That doesn't necessarily have a lot of glass on it, so that you've got a wall there. And those are the ideal spots in my mind for murals. And I love the idea of murals.
I may add that the best cities that we know in the United States and the world do have murals. Barcelona is an example. Here, there are examples in San Diego, for example. I think it also has this wonderful way of supporting the artist community, which is important. You take Austin, Texas, there you can see the murals and how that mixes with art and music.
Mhm.
And that's an opportunity I want to talk about when I bring my some of the ideas of economic development forward.
Well, look what Sand City just did. I mean, yeah,
Yeah, nice job.
yeah.
Yeah, getting back to the parklet. In terms of facade, are we talking about strictly street facing? What about behind the building? Is that also going to be considered facade? As in terms of would a business also be eligible? Because I know a lot of patios are being built behind a business now, and that's also kind of alleviating a little bit of the loss of indoor dining. So is that also included in as our considered facade, or is that?
Wow, interesting question.
Good question.
Thank you. I would put the question back on the commission. Do you want it to be included? If you think that there are a lot of businesses who the patios or the sides or areas that can be seen by the street and help improve the overall feel of the neighborhood, if that's something that you feel is a need and that businesses could, it's a low-hanging fruit and they could really put some quick money into it and make it look better, then why not?
Agree.
Yeah,
Are there
I guess, yeah.
issues? Yeah. Are there any issues about a particular location that we would want to define or qualify in some way? I don't know if it's a private alleyway, if it's someone's backyard.
Correct.
You know, where do you draw lines, and do we want to?
Yeah, so that there's no misuse and there's no, use of the public purse for private improvement. So
Would the backside of the building then have, would we require it to have public access or at least public view?
Yeah. Yeah.
absolutely.
That's what I'm thinking, that it's not just, backs up into an alley that, nobody sees. Because it has to enhance the business. That's the purpose of it.
I'm thinking of some murals in San Francisco. There's an area where there are a lot of them, and you're in some cases you're in alleys, but they're public alleys.
Well, San Francisco has a lot of those.
So if we're going to put bounds on it, I'm struggling to find ways to define those. And I'm not sure we're going to get there today.
But I think we should consider the back of a business as well. We just have to define the
Correct.
parameters of, what does that mean? What does that look like?
Correct. Access, public alleyway, those kinds of very clear guidelines. Yeah.
I think
Good
the
point,
key is
Dennis.
that access
Yeah.
from that backside.
Yeah.
Okay. What's up next?
Okay,
We're at time, I think.
we've got,
Got no time.
There, you do have a member of the public that has their hand raised. I don't know if you're opening comment on this item.
we have, it's up, Commissioner, Chair, it's up to you. We have 2 more questions.
Yeah, let's go ahead and see what their question is.
Sarah Haller, you now have the floor to make your public comment.
Hi, thanks for letting me comment. It was more of a comment instead of a question. Listening to you guys discuss murals. We now have the Arts Council located in Seaside. They moved from Carmel, and wow, what an organization. And in fact, they were involved. You mentioned the one in Murals in Sand City, and the Arts Council was involved in that. So they'd be a great contact to talk anything about murals. So thanks for letting me throw that in.
Certainly. Thank you very much. In fact, I had lunch the other day with the executive director from the Arts Council and the board chair. So I'm helping them actually fill some board seats. So yeah.
My wife serves on the board of the Art Council with Jackie. So
Yeah.
I'd be happy to raise that with my wife.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, no, I had a great conversation with them over lunch. So perfect. Thank you. Go ahead, Trevor, let's hit those last questions.
All right, we've got, does C Jobs, I think we kind of addressed this earlier with the staff question, but does C Jobs want to serve in any kind of approving capacity, whether as the full commission or a subcommittee? So that's the first one. The one of them was how much money should be allocated to the program and for how long. So that's, you know, do we close the application at some point, or do we just say until funds are depleted? And then the last one would be the timeline for the application period and construction turnaround. So what's the shot clock? If we give them a letter of approval, when do they need to complete it by?
Okay. So my comment would be that we leave it open until funds are exhausted, or funds are available. And then this is the question on the actual completion of the project. So from approval of the grant or the money, how much time?
So given constraints on labor force, I think that has become an interesting question. Given the hiring difficulties, I'm trying to get a home completed, and it's taking quite some a number of contractors. But I think the time is important. I would have said 30 days, but that's impossible now. So probably 90 days or some reasonable period of time, so that people just don't lollygag on the completion of the work.
I'd like to specify a start time, time from approval till beginning of work. If the design is complete at the time of approval. And the duration of the work will depend on how complex it is. If they're building a deck and a parklet and you know, got artists doing murals for a sign, that could take a lot longer than a paint job.
We could do it where from funding or approval of funding to start date and have a completion date. I just don't want to see it started and then
Not finished. Yeah.
lollygagging around and just going, oh, you know, we couldn't find anybody. It doesn't create a sense of urgency to get it done, because I'm waiting for my cousin who's coming from so-and-so to do the paint job or whatever it might be, because that's what happens. Yeah.
Yes, you're right.
So 30-day window and 90-day, you know, even the mural, you know.
Well, I think too, if they run across a problem and come back to us, I mean, I don't see why we couldn't extend it. You know, if there's they have proof that not able to, you know, get the contractor or the materials. That's another issue too. Building materials are, you know, very hard to come by right now. So, you know, that might be something as well. I don't know. You know, sometimes, you know, they're going to have something fabricated, maybe that, you know, metal or, you know, whatever it might be. Mm-hmm.
And I think that that should answer Trevor's first question. Does the commission want to get involved? I think we should leave it to Trevor and his staff to make all those decisions instead of bringing it back to the commission, except on an exceptional basis.
Do we want to be involved in extensions?
No. This is not the job of the commission, I think.
Glad to have that on the record.
Good point.
That's above my pay grade.
Exactly.
Since
Yeah.
pay's at zero anyway.
Right.
Well said.
Okay,
Did we get all of those? There were several questions in that.
yeah,
Yeah, that was good. That was perfect. That's exactly what I needed. I really appreciate that.
Okay.
Your feedback, it's going to be incorporated, and we're going to get policies that are going to represent your values and are going to help and support the small businesses in Seaside. I do want to note, we have in there the government officer, the Governor's Finance Officers Association's framework for keeping economic development incentives accountable. So if you're interested, those are in there, and I'd be happy in the future, if you see something in there that you want to tweak, I'd be happy to receive that in an email and include it.
Is there a site we can go and get all these documents?
yeah, it's on the on the City of Seaside website.
Okay,
And just go to meeting agendas, and then if you, there's a box, one says packet, click on packet, it's going to give you everything.
okay. I went today and looked, I couldn't find it. So I didn't look under packet. So,
Oh, okay,
all right. I looked under all the other buttons.
okay. Do we have time to continue?
I do.
I do.
Okay, all right, let's, since we tabled these the last time, I really want to get through them. Item 6 are the commissioner requests, and I believe those are yours, Sham.
Yes, and I thank you for, and I'll make this quick. Let me just share something here. I sent these, I believe, to Dominique and to Trevin, and they might have shared them with you, so I'll make it fast, presuming you have looked at these. So could I share my screen? Yes, I could. So here we go. And so I just wanted to talk about very quickly an economic development initiative that was started 4.5 years ago, but then got stalled because of COVID. And this is a strategy for bringing recreation, wellness, and ecotourism businesses to the area. So just a second, yeah. So very quickly, what I wanted to mention was that a group of individuals from, including Monterey County Supervisor Mary Adams, but people from the aquarium, the MCHA, the Monterey Bay Convention and Visitors Bureau, Tammy, when she was here, got involved in looking at creating a strategy for a sustainable hospitality, ecotourism, and eco-recreation region in the Monterey Bay region. And the goal was to create jobs and livelihoods utilizing the strengths of the region, the natural endowment, the already strong tourism business, the hospitality businesses, and the recreational possibilities, as well as the very strong wellness focus of the region. So I won't go through these goals, but the basic goal was to establish a brand name for the region, rather like, say, the country of Costa Rica, to make this a place which would do responsible economic development by keeping the environment while creating jobs, sort of a win-win strategy. And so this occurred with the 2015 launch of the Sustainable Hospitality Management Program at CSU-MB, followed by a visit to Costa Rica and a partnership with the government of Costa Rica that John Avella, who was the co-founder, because we both established the Sustainable Hospitality Program, we visited and formed an alliance with the country of Costa Rica to create a partnership in responsible tourism development. So we held a sustainability summit at the Intercontinental, the Clement, with about 150 key people present. We had 2 presidents from Costa Rica speak, and then a delegation from Costa Rica visited the area, visited Seaside, met with the mayor at that time, Ralph, and with the mayors, and we talked about this. They wanted to help in the best way possible. So they gave us some ideas. And then we took a US delegation of hospitality leaders, Supervisor Adams, other influential individuals, and visited Costa Rica, and then established a Monterey Bay Ecotourism Task Force, which was meeting till we held a second sustainability summit on over-tourism, but also sustainable tourism and its relation to over-tourism. So we've identified key players, and today we are on the verge of launching the first eco-hotel project in Marina. Right now, that's still not decided because there are more than one contender, but there is an eco-hotel in play in Marina at the Imjin Highway 1 mound rise. So that is a possibility. If that happens, there'll be a farm-to-table restaurant. It'll be a completely eco-driven with the wind turbines and a solar power, etc. In the piece. So I believe that the city of Seaside becomes an ideal place to get involved. There are sites in Seaside, and it would be wonderful if the city of Seaside developed a strategy for welcoming such development. I know of at least 2 sites where this is a strong possibility. So just to go to the highlights, given the number of events that take place and the wellness and the Blue Zone initiative, there is a whole reason to attract wellness businesses, tourism businesses. A large number of people who work in the hospitality industry actually live in Seaside and further away. So how we can make that, there's also a affordable housing project that is being proposed as part of that. So I wanted to alert the commission to these possibilities and the establishment of the first real eco hotel. There is the ranch, but this is going to be really something iconic, and it's going to change the footprint of the region and the job potential in the region. So these were some of the individuals who were involved, who were approached, and who have helped with this. And I just wanted to bring this up because the goal is by 2030, when global warming will be really rearing its head, to make sure that we change the footprint of the hospitality industry to become very sustainable, to become green, and develop the infrastructure and the jobs in the area that can sustain them. So I'll stop with that. I can get into details with the commissioners and with you, Trevin, and your staff to help you to understand what is moving ahead and what the opportunities for Seaside are. Thank you very much. You're on mute.
Sorry. Were there any other items? You had 3 under commissioner requests. One was
the first one I presented last time. We discussed that in detail. I'll do the next one the next time because, you know, I think we're over time. If you're
okay.
Are there any comments? I'd like to get the comments of the commissioners and the staff on this initiative.
I would just say, wow, and I'm so impressed, and I'm so glad to be a part of this.
The key question is, how do we get this to move forward? participate, and I think that the time is soon, given the pace at which the whole idea is moving. And I'd like to see the city of Seaside, where the university resides, become a leader in this development.
Commissioner, I think this is amazing plan that's been put forth. It looks really well done. And what comes to mind is the Campus Town project will have some hotels. And I think we might have some opportunity to start working at the beginning to make sure that those meet any of the green criteria or the blue zone criteria laid out in the strategic plan. I think we might still have opportunity to figure out that component and how the project that's being planned and the strategic initiative can align. And besides that, I think obviously there's a lot more future developments that we can collaborate with each other on.
Yeah, as far as the criteria go, they're very extremely well known, and I'm happy to share them. The best way to do this is, always getting it done will make the reality come through instead of laying out elaborate plans. So, for example, in Marina, because of the availability of the site, we just worked with the developer to convert them to the ethos of bringing this as an eco hotel. And today it's an iconic piece. It's going to change the whole entire footprint of the region, both regionally, but also in California and nationally. And I think Seaside has really the driver's seat in this, because Seaside has amazing sites that can be developed with this in focus. And talking to the previous mayor, he was very excited with his degree from Berkeley. He was very excited about the prospects, and he participated. And the present mayor, too, is very much aware of these plans. So I think the way to do this would be for us to take a look at what the practical next step is going to be, and then attract a hotel developer to the site and have them develop this, and then think about the broader spread, the eco-recreation and wellness piece, because Fort Ord is the place where there are 13 events, bicycling events, in addition to the Tour of California bike event. And this is really where the rubber hits the road, literally and figuratively, because that's where the wellness piece comes in, attracting wellness businesses, given the impact on Seaside. Seaside is really economically challenged, to think in those terms, to bring in businesses that would generate wealth but not impact negatively the environment. So
we certainly have a huge opportunity in this arena, for sure, for the city of Seaside. And as a past hotelier, it's so exciting for me. So we will continue with that, and I think there are opportunities even with some of the even with Campus Town as they start to develop. I think we're still on the ground level with that even if we can't do a full blown, we can start easing into some of these eco practices, definitely.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right.
Is there, I think this is the last of the points. Trevor, was there anything else that you needed from us?
No, I will make the last one about the the cultural center at the next meeting, if that's okay.
Okay, yeah, we will push that over to next month's agenda. So item 6C, we will go ahead and put on to next month's agenda. Thank you, Sean, for splitting these all up for us.
Yeah, it's an overload. It's a mind dump if I do it all in one go.
Thank you. Thank you for saving our brains. Okay. Seeing no other business, I'd like to call for an adjournment.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
Thank you. So we will adjourn the meeting at 5:25 PM and we will see you next month. Thank you.
Thank you.